Many games simply over time become classics, the good ones of course. There are some that become myths, and the ones that become myth don't become myth because they sold the most copies or they had the biggest budgets per se. Mostly, in those cases, it's because years after they disappear, people still talk about them as if they'd never left. Well, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver is one of those games. Even now, decades after Raziel first climbed from the Lake of the Dead, began his journey through the world of Nosgoth, players still remember the atmosphere, the writing, the voice acting, and the sense of mystery that surrounded every step of that adventure. Well, very few games have ever created the world quite like Nosgoth. I would have to say that that's exactly why the idea of a true next-gen Soul Reaver Remake continues to be so freaking exciting today. Now, first of all, of course, to be clear as always, there's currently no officially announced next-gen Soul Reaver Remake. What does exist is a recently released Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, which brought the classic adventures back to modern platforms with enhanced visuals, updated controls, camera improvements, performance upgrades, and various quality of life features as well. The Remastered collection launched in December 2024. To celebrate the series' 25th anniversary. But interestingly enough, the remasters may have actually increased demand for something bigger, a full remake. A complete reimagining, a modern return to Nosgoth, built entirely for current hardware. The thing is, while players appreciate the remasters, a lot of other discussions across the community quickly shifted toward a larger question. What if Raziel could come back with the same treatment the modern franchises like Resident Evil, Dead Space, and Demon's Souls received? Now, that conversation appears constantly throughout the fanbase. Many players openly argue that Soul Reaver deserves a ground-up remake rather than just a simple remaster, believing the world and the story are pretty strong, or way much stronger than you would imagine to support a complete modernization. And honestly, it's difficult to disagree. Because the original Soul Reaver already possessed something most games spend years trying to basically even touch, which was identity. The moment players entered the world, they knew they were somewhere special. This wasn't traditional fantasy, this was gothic horror. This was science fiction at the same time. It felt like all of those things belonged together into something entirely unique. Ancient civilizations, gigantic cathedrals, vampire ruling over the dying world in there. Every location felt ancient, they felt haunted, every conversation felt important. Even today, few games manage to achieve that level of atmosphere, which is basically why a modern remake feels so easy to imagine. Picture Nosgoth rebuilt using Unreal Engine 5 or another modern engine, not simply updated, reimagined. The original game already did a lot. It felt enormous. So a true next-gen remake could make it feel really epic now. And perhaps most importantly, you see, it could finally deliver the version of Nosgoth many players imagined in their heads while playing the original. One of the greatest strengths of Soul Reaver was always his storytelling. Like long before cinematic storytelling became common in gaming, Soul Reaver was delivering complex narratives filled with betrayal, destiny, manipulation, philosophical questions about free will, all of that. Raziel wasn't just a typical hero, Kain wasn't a typical villain. Their relationship remains one of the most fascinating character dynamics gaming has basically ever produced. Neither one of those characters were entirely right, neither one of them was entirely wrong, and that's what made every encounter between them feel so compelling. So a remake could elevate those moments dramatically. Modern performance capture technology could transform conversations into fully cinematic experiences. Facial animation systems could convey emotions that simply weren't even achievable in 1999. Voice performances could be preserved while benefiting from modern presentation techniques. That's right, the result wouldn't be changing the story, it will be allowing the story to reach its full potential. And that's important because Soul Reaver's narrative remains one of its biggest strengths. Even players who revisit the games today often point to the writing and the voice acting as one of the finest examples of storytelling from that era. The conflict between Raziel and Kain continues to be praised throughout fan-based discussions and retrospective reviews. Then there's also, of course, the gameplay. This is where a remake could make perhaps the biggest leap. The original game's realm-shifting mechanics was revolutionary at the time. Players could move between material world and the spectral realm, causing environments to transform and revealing new pathways. It remains one of the most creative mechanics ever introduced in an action-adventure game, but modern technology could push that idea further. Like imagine shifting between realms without loading screens, entire environments twisting, stretching, reforming around the player in real time. Imagine puzzles of fully utilized modern physics systems. Combat encounters where enemies pursue you across both dimensions simultaneously. See, the foundation already exists, the technology is simply caught up to the vision now. Combat, of course, could receive similar improvements. Since the original battles were memorable, they were also limited by the hardware of their era. So simply a remake could introduce more dynamic enemy behavior, expanded movement systems, improved boss encounters, and deeper combat mechanics, while preserving the methodical feel that defined Raziel's journey. Players wouldn't just fight through Nosgoth, they would survive it. And survival is an important word when discussing a potential remake, because one thing that often gets overlooked is just how dark Soul Reaver actually was. This wasn't a heroic fantasy adventure, it was a story about extinction, decay, loss. The world was already broken long before Raziel arrived. Every location told the story of a civilization that had collapsed, every character carried the scars of so countless years of suffering, and a modern remake, should embrace that darkness. Not through excessive horror, by any means, not through cheap shock value, but through atmosphere. The gaming industry has shown tremendous interest in receiving beloved franchises from previous generations. Resident Evil did it, Dead Space did it, Silent Hill's doing it, Demon's Souls did it. Many of these projects succeeded because developers recognized something important. That players don't simply want nostalgia, they want great games. And beneath all of the nostalgia surrounding Soul Reaver lies a genuinely great game. A great story, a great world, great characters, amazing ideas. The ingredients are already there, they always have been. That's what makes the idea of a next-gen Soul Reaver remake so exciting. And not because it would allow players to revisit the past, but because it could finally show new audiences why the series actually mattered in the first place. Here's the thing, right now the only confirmed reality is that the franchise has returned through the successful remastered releases. But sometimes the first step towards something bigger is just simply reminding people why they care in the first place. And if there's one thing the return of Soul Reaver has proven, it's that people still care about the world. We still care about Kain and the characters. And deep down, many players are still waiting for the day they can stand on the edge of that ruined world once again, look across this endless darkness, and experience a definitive version of one of gaming's most unforgettable adventures. Hopefully, sooner rather than later.